All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to day 2 of our training. Another kind of jam-packed day for today. So we're going to start talking about the drop-in workflow, the unregistered client workflow, a couple of those things that we didn't really get to yesterday. So we'll talk about that. Then we're going to talk about assessments, and assessments is our term for forms and assessment that live and treat that you can fill in electronically. So we'll talk a little bit about kind of where they live, how to access them, what it'll look like. You don't have currently any pre-built assessments in Treat, but just so you can get some familiarity of where it'll be. And then we'll take a short break, and then Babik's going to come on at 11 o'clock to talk about the OCAN and give a demo on the OCAN. Okay, so we'll have that from about 11 to 12. We'll break for lunch, we'll come back, and then we have some smaller-ish modules to go through and treat. We'll talk a little bit about workload, how you can do that outside of a note, how co-signature works, tasks and alerts, lockbox feature, the care plan, and then we'll take a short break, we'll come back, and then we'll kind of do some test scenarios and to show you a little bit more about other functionalities that you can leverage in Treat. Anyone have any questions? And if we don't get to the test scenarios today, then we'll use the time tomorrow to do that. Okay, so today might be just another, let's go through all the modules and Treat, learn everything, and tomorrow we'll start applying it. So everyone, make sure you have your logins to Treat, you're able to log in so that tomorrow we can do that.
I just have a question for those that are on the call because I'm unfamiliar with the other departments. Does anybody on this call do OCANs?
Yeah, we
Donna
do
Lee.
housing. And collaborative care does, I think.
Perfect.
Employment does as well.
Awesome.
Good. All right.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Also, I'm just gonna put a little note out that unfortunately, bad planning on my part, I have someone coming in to clean my air ducts or whatever they're called in the condo. So I don't know what time they're coming, but at some point I might just need to take a quick 10-minute break because it's loud and I won't be able to hear you guys and whatever. So apologies for that. It's out of my control. But anyways, okay. Let's start with the unregistered client workflow. So this is related to clients that you guys have come in who are anonymous. So sometimes someone might call in, you don't know who it is, but you want to track some information about the call, right? What programs would this work for? Is this all programs that would you think would have this? Is it just drop-in? Sometimes people call in asking about drop-in. Where does this play?
I would say mostly drop-in. Maybe employment.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of employment. I think majority drop in, but yeah.
Okay. Perfect. So what I've done is I've kind of outlined some step-by-steps for you guys to do that will help help this, but as well as we're going to go over it together. So someone calls in, you don't know who it is, but you want to document that conversation against that encounter. We have in Tree what's called an unregistered client. Okay, the unregistered client is the client you're going to use to document these notes against. Okay, so all your notes are going to be documented against this unregistered client. What I would do, and what we're going to do together, is use that unregistered client and enroll them in the programs that will use this. So enroll them in drop-in and enroll them in employment. Just though, because when you create the note, you have to put it towards either a program or enrollment, an encounter. So at least this way you have something to put it against. Okay. And then you're going to just put the note, when you select the note, you're just going to select unregistered note. So let's do this together in Treat. So I'm going to log into Treat. And I'm going to search for the unregistered client. So even if you just put unregistered, it'll show up. So you can see we have a client who's the unregistered client. Okay. If I look, if I just go to my demographics, you'll see that the unregistered client has no programs enrolled in it, okay, because there's nothing under that yellow bar. So we're just going to go and enroll them in the programs, drop-in and in employment. And this is just something you're going to have to do one time. It's not something you're going to have to do all the time. So we're just going to do drop-in. I'm going to put them under the PARC staff, okay? Okay. And I'm going to enroll them in, you guys said employment, right? So you have a few employment. Is there a specific one or would they be all of them?
Most likely probably employment drop-in or employment pre-employment training.
Employment training. So we have employment program.
Training pre-employment.
Yeah.
Maybe.
The program.
there,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Great. So now we have them enrolled in these programs. So now what you would do, this is a one step. You don't have to worry about this anymore. You have your unreg. So I'm going to find my unreg client. Okay. Someone calls in, they're asking about drop-in. I had a 15-minute conversation with them. I have no idea who they are. You're going to come here, create a note, and you're going to select the unregistered note. Okay. Here, what you're going to do is you're going to put in the time of how long you spent on the phone with them. Sorry, Paul, are you following? So we searched for the unregistered client and we selected the unregistered note. Okay. Here for the note details, you're just going to put in that interaction time. Paula, do you have a question?
I got lost when I'm still on program enrollment information sheet and I don't know where the enrolling into the employment program is.
Oh, so we just enrolled this client into these programs. So if let me cancel out of here. So this is just a one-step thing. You're just going to enroll them in that. But if I went to my client, enroll in a program is at the top here. Remember on the left navigation bar, the first one is enroll in a program.
That disappears when I'm in the program enrollment information sheet. That sidebar is not there.
That's right, because now you're enrolling them in a program.
Okay, but you had mentioned the employment program and I don't see that anywhere here.
So if you look at the program list, that's where you see the list of your programs.
What did you click? What did you just click?
Right here under where it says
Okay.
program. Yeah.
I thought you said drop in, so
Yeah,
okay.
so we enrolled them in drop-in and we enrolled them in employment.
Is there drop in and employment on? I see drop in program and I see a whole bunch of employment programs.
Right. So we've already done it. So that's why now if I click on this drop-in, you'll see that they're active enrollments already for those two programs.
Is there an ad? Is there an ad program? Because I can only see one. I mean, I click on drop in and I don't see a secondary ability to drop in program primary worker PARC staff. And then
Right.
I don't see add a program here anywhere.
Wouldn't.
You wouldn't see add a program here. This is if you want to enroll this client in additional programs.
Yeah, you'd have to do them separately. You do one program at a time.
Right.
Where is the button for the additional program?
Okay, so if let's take a step back. Okay, you have a client. So in this case, we're using the unregistered client.
Yes.
Okay, so you're going to search your client. You have your client. You want to enroll them in a program. Every program needs a separate enrollment. So on the left navigation panel here, because I have my client in context, this will show up. I am going to click on enroll in a program. When I click on enroll in a program, I can see they're already enrolled in these two programs because it's on the left, it's on the yellow bar. So they're already enrolled in employment program,
Yep.
PARC drop-on.
Okay.
If I want to enroll them in an additional program, from here, this page, I can enroll them, but I need to fill in the mandatory fields. So I need to select a date. I need to select the program I want to enroll them in. So I'm just going to pick this for fun. You're going to select that primary worker, right? And then you would hit save. But for this purpose, these are the only two programs this client needs to be registered for. So I'm not going to hit save. Okay. Una, do you have a question?
Yes, I've just been trying to do this alongside of you, and this is kind of more for maybe farther on, but I go to enroll in a program and it says I'm not authorized.
To enroll in a program?
So I go to unregistered. I'm trying
Oh,
to
it's because I'm in here right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's because I'm in the unregistered. You guys won't be able to come in here right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was more, I was like, this might be a problem later on when we start.
No,
practicing.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And it's because I'm in edit mode. If I wasn't in an edit mode, you'd be fine. But because I'm working
Okay.
with this client, you're getting locked out. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Anna.
Yeah, no problem. Okay. Paul, are we good or have I still lost you? You're good. Okay, perfect. So
Anna, can I just ask a question? Like you just mentioned something about because you were in the unregistered client. Does that mean that when this is live and we're using it, if anyone who's logged in is
only if you're in edit mode.
if we may have 50 unregistered clients. So if
No, if you're in edit mode. So if I'm
Okay.
editing a program, if I'm editing their demographics thing, which you wouldn't in this mode, then yes, you'll get locked out because major contents are being changed. But if you're
Okay.
like 5 people are creating a note, that will be okay.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so we have our unregistered client. We've enrolled them in these programs. This client is ready. You never have to worry about this again. The only thing now what you're going to do, someone calls in and says, hey, blah, 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 I'm looking for information about your drop-in. What you're going to do is come to create a note. So on the left navigation panel, there's a tab here, create a note, and you're going to create an unregistered note. Okay, going to click on that, and it's going to open up the template for the unregistered note. Here, what you're going to do is edit the interaction time. So how long did you spend talking to this person? This is for you guys to track this on the back end. So maybe you spent 20 minutes talking to this person. You would just put 9 o'clock to 9:20. Okay. This is where because we enroll them in the PARC drop-in program, we're just going to select PARC drop-in. That's what they called about. We're just going to select that. When you come to the bottom now, it has different types of information. And this is just going to be whatever information you can gather from the person you spoke about. Okay. You may or may not know the client name. You may just put alias. They may have just given you a first name and not a last name, right? So you're just going to put the information you know. Notice nothing here is mandatory. It's just information that you can capture from this conversation. Okay. So I can even say birth date unknown. They didn't give it to us. Gender, they're a male. Any other identifying information, I can say, goes to Wilkinson High School and plays basketball. Whatever information they gave you. Okay. And then your notes spoke to show about our drop-in programs. He is interested in yoga and basketball. Okay. whatever you want to write about this information. The birth date, if you don't even know it, you can even say, I don't know, he was approximately 25 years old. Any information you have, because like I said, this person you don't know, right? They didn't give you any information. They either just walked in and spoke to you for a few minutes, or they called you and spoke to you for a few minutes. From here, what you're going to do is edit your workload, okay? So you're going to come to your workload and you're going to say you spent, it already comes in, right? So it's already linked to the drop-in program. The 20 minutes comes in, so you don't have to worry about that. It's for the one visit. All you're going to do here is say, was it face-to-face? Was it over the phone? How did you speak to them? Okay. And you're just going to pick your workload type. So, okay, and then hit save there. That is entered. And then what you're going to do is sign your note.
So Anna, like you could have like 50, 100 unregistered clients, right?
Yep.
Do they get numbered? Like how would
Nope.
you?
They all come in
It's
here.
just a one-off.
They're
These are
one-offs,
just
right?
one-offs.
Yeah.
So even if it's the same person repeatedly,
Yeah.
like over a number of years, they would never be connected back to that note. They would just get a new note.
Right. So if you know, like, for what's going to happen, that name that I put in, whether it was like Joe or alias or whatever, that name will show up in the note detail. So you can scan for your notes. Remember later on, if Joe were to call again and you put in another note towards Joe, later on I can filter and say, you know what, let's look for all the ones that are with Joe. And then maybe you'll be able to see like there's like 4 or 5 about Joe that has, right? And then you would have to read them to see, is this, there's a link here, is it the same Joe or not the same Joe?
And then you could maybe create a file.
Exactly, and I'll show you that next.
Okay.
Okay. So because these are all your unregistered clients, so then in the future, if you ever want to look at notes, you just come into your unregistered client, come to your notes section on the left navigation panel, and all your unregistered notes will show up here. So you'll be able to see them by the date, right? The date they were created, the interaction date and time. The note detail is usually the name you give on the actual field in the note. Okay, and you can see what program they called towards. So this one called towards the drop-in program. Okay.
So, Anna, if they choose to
Become a client?
become a registered,
Yep.
client.
I'm gonna do that next.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. A month has gone down the line, 2 months have gone down the line. Joe calls in and says, hey, I want to be, whatever, I'm gonna be a client, or however you guys deal with it, right? So you're gonna follow the same process that we did yesterday, right? New client comes in. What's the first step? We're gonna search by last name to see that the client is registered in our program. So let's give Joe a last name of. Okay, let's go. Hey, there's no Bensons. I'm gonna register Joe. I'm gonna say Joe, last name Benson. Okay. You have to fill in all the mandatory fields, so I'm just going to quickly go and do that. So remember, you're registering him now in a program. You're into the demographics. You have to fill in all the mandatory fields, but ideally you want to fill in anything that pertains to this client, right? And current address type. Okay. Oh, shoot. Okay, you can see I have no errors. Proceed to save. We are good. Okay. Joe is now a client in Treat because we have his name in the yellow bar. and we have the treat ID. Okay. All right. Now we want to move those notes from the unregistered client to Joe.
Okay.
Okay. So remember, if we go to our unreg client, we go to our notes section. So left navigation panel, I'm going to go to my notes. And I can come here and see, oh, I have 2 notes for Joe. Okay, so this is the Joe that is now our client. So I'm going to expand on the note. And remember, we have the option to move the notes. Right?
Yeah.
I'm going to move that note. I'm going to select a reason. So I'm going to say he's now registered in treat. You're going to find that client. So I'm going to say it's Joe Benson. Right? You're going to select that client, and it's going to ask you to confirm that you want to move. Oh, we're going to move it to a destination, but this does not have an encounter. You have to enroll them in a program first. That's why it's not working. Let me just quickly go into that. Okay. So you'll first have to enroll Joe in a program first. So let me do that first because you have to link the note to the encounter. So let's enroll him into drop-in. Okay. So
That's
Joe,
new. PARC staff is new.
Yeah, I put it in yesterday.
Nice.
Anna, when you've done all of this, can you do it again?
I can, yeah.
Thank you.
We'll go through the workflow again. Somebody uncheck. Oh, no, okay. Okay. So now what we've done, sorry. So we can see that we have our unregistered client. Did someone change the name for the unregistered client?
It was
You
probably
added
me. Sorry.
Vincent. Oh,
Oh, yeah. Can we? Yeah, you're gonna. Yeah, okay. So we don't want to change anything with the unregistered client. Okay, because it's gonna mess up the reason for using the unregistered client. Okay, let me just fix this. Okay. So unregistered client, you don't change anything with it. Okay, you just, the only thing you need to do is the notes against the unregistered client. Okay. Let's reset. Okay. You have your unregistered client. Okay, so if I click unreg, still not. Give me a second, I just have to check another site to just make sure the setting is right.
I take it that we're not supposed to be actually entering in things because you're moving
No,
really quickly and we're just supposed to be
not,
watching you.
no.
yeah, don't enter anything right now. And the unregistered client is just an unregistered client entry. No one's entering any information other than notes for that client. Okay. Sorry, I'm just gonna fix this first so it works for us before I come back into it. Okay, I think we should be good. Yeah, for now, let's not be in treat yourselves doing it. Let's just watch and learn and observe, and then we'll all have an opportunity to do it together.
I don't mean to, sorry, go ahead. No, never mind.
No, go ahead.
I'm just wondering if we need to pull stats, would it make sense to have unregistered client drop-in, unregistered client employment, and then that way we put notes and then we enroll unregistered client drop-in to the drop-in, and all those are going to be drop-in notes. And then unregistered client employment will be, all notes will be referring to employment. Does that make sense? And then if we are trying to pull data,
so you will.
it's not muddled up.
You'll put the note against which program they called you for.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. That is exactly what you're going to do. And
No,
that's
But
why
I think Nick is suggesting that's in the title. It doesn't say unregistered client.
We have multiple unregistered clients, but we name one unregistered client drop-in, unregistered client employment. Because if we're trying to pull data, let's say from unregistered clients, and we're only reporting on the drop-in, it might get muddled into the other program. Does that make sense?
You could essentially do that, but then you're going to have a lot of unregistered clients profiles in treat, whereas you can pull the stats off the note, right? Because the note is going to be linked to the program.
Linked to the program. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yep, perfect.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, let's reset everybody. Okay, we have an unregistered client. Somebody calls in and tells you, I want information on employment. I want information to drop in. You are going to select your unregistered client. Still not working the way I'd like. Okay, you have your unregistered client, okay? We enrolled the client into now 3 programs, okay? But they are enrolled in employment program, into the PARC drop-in, and now into another employment program, okay? The reason why we enrolled this client initially into this program is because we need to link notes to either a program or a visit, either an encounter, okay? So in order to link this unregistered client that's going to come in and speak to you, we just linked the 2 programs that we felt they call you most about. Okay? Are we good? Okay. Somebody calls in and says, I want to get information about drop-in. The only thing you're going to do here is go to your notes. You're going to go to the left navigation panel. You're going to create a note and you're going to create an unregistered note. Okay? The note template is going to open up for this unregistered note. Okay? And what you're going to do here is say how long you spent speaking to this person. Okay? So you're going to say, I spent from maybe 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock, and it's not going to let me do 10 o'clock because we're not at 10 o'clock yet, 9:30 speaking to this client. Okay? And because we enroll them in 2 programs, this is where you're just going to select what program did they call you regarding and what did you speak to them about. And this is where you're going to get your stats that we have, X amount of people that called about drop-in, X amount of people that called about employment, or this one. Okay, we're good. So I'm going to say for today's purpose, they called about drop-in. Okay. They called about drop-in, and then you're going to come to the note section down here. Now, this is just information that you can put in and gather based on your conversation. Somebody might walk into PARC, you don't know anything about them. They're not disclosing their, how old they are or anything like that. Maybe they say, hey, I'm Joe, and that's all you know about them, right? So all you can say is Joe. There's no last name. That's okay. You're just going to put in all the information you know. If you don't know the client name, you can either put alias or you could put unknown. Okay. Date of birth, same thing. Most of the time, walk-ins may come up to you or they call you. They're not going to say, hey, my birth date is so-and-so, or, you know, so you can put unknown. If they walked in and you want to say, you know what, they looked approximately 25 years old, whatever you want to put. Okay, this is just information. So if they come back and they speak to you or they call you again, you can have some reference points to the Joe that called, yes, last week. Okay. Gender, we can say male, any other information that they disclose to you. Maybe they say they go to, maybe they said they've attended a PARC drop-in before. Okay, maybe that's all you know. That's all you got from that information. And here is where you're going to put the note. What did you speak to them about? Okay, spent time speaking to Joe about our drop-in programs. He will consider coming next month to yoga. Okay, for example. Now, because we talk about workload, you're going to have to add in your workload. And workload will come in based on what the interaction time you already put at the top. So it already links it to the drop-in program. It links the time, so you already have your direct minutes. The date comes in. The only thing you need to put in here is your visit type, which means, did you speak to them in person? Was it a face-to-face at the community, so at the office or outside, or did you speak to them over the telephone? I'm not sure if you speak to people over email, but the options are here and you just pick which one applies. Okay, so you can say we spoke to them at the office, they came in, and then you're going to select your direct workload type. Okay, and again, you guys will select the one that applies here, but if this list needs to be adjusted, PARC team, this is something you may want to take back and review. Okay, and then you hit save here, and we hit save in our note. So remember, signing note is saying that you sent this permanent record, you set the permanent record on the client's profile. Okay, you save the note, and there we go. We have our note that we wrote for Joe. If I expand on it, my notes that I wrote come in here. Okay, this client name comes up in the note detail, so that later on, if you guys want to filter for the names that of people that might have called you, things like that, you have that option. Okay, are we good with that step? Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, step 1. So anybody going forward that calls you or walks in or anything, we are going to use this unregistered client, and you're going to link it towards the note of unregistered note and the program that they're calling about for your stats. Now, 3 months have gone down the line, whatever, you know, Joe decides he wants to become a client in Treat. Okay, so you're going to follow the steps that we spoke about yesterday of how you enroll a new client, right? So remember, your first step was to search, is there a client in here? And we already did this, so that's why now Joe's in here. So you have your client, Joe walks in, he wants to be a client. So we're gonna, if there is a referral associated to him, you would have your referral. If there isn't, you would just enroll him in a program, okay? So we're going to enroll Joe in the program. We enrolled him in Drop Him already, but I'm going to enroll him in employment maybe. So I'm going to say, you know what, he's also interested in the employment program. Okay. I'm just going to put this to PARC staff too for now. Okay. So we filled in the mandatory fields. So the date, it's an enrollment to a program. This is the name of the program. This is the primary worker, because remember, all of the programs need a primary worker. We don't have a referral, so we're not going to link anything. Okay, we filled in all the mandatory fields, and now we're going to hit save. And now on the yellow bar under Joe's name, we can see he's also enrolled in the employment program. We're still good? Thumbs up, peeps? Good. Thank you. Nick, you have a question?
I meant to do a thumbs up.
Oh,
and I
okay,
raised my
okay,
hand.
okay. Okay, so now our last step in this process, now that he's become a client, is those unregistered notes we want to transfer over to his profile, okay? So you need to go back to your unregistered client. So we're gonna go back to our unregistered client, okay? We're gonna navigate to the notes section. So on the left navigation panel, there's the notes, right? I can see there's a lot of notes here. I have a note with no name. I have a note for Bob. I have a note for Joe, right? I can either use my filters and say, you know what, let's search for any keywords that come up with Joe. And I can see just the notes that came into Joe, right? Or you might say, you know what? I actually remember speaking to him on this day only, or it was between April 1st and April 30th, right? So you can even use the filters here and say, you know what? Let's just filter for everything between these dates, and it'll show you this. So I did a filter for all the ones that were signed, right? They're signed. So signed means when I signed my note and it completed my note. So these are the dates that are showing up here. So all my signed notes from April 1st to April 30th, or your interaction dates, right? So you can see I have interaction dates are when they spoke to me. If I set this just from the 23rd, you could see that only those Joe ones will pop up. So I can say, let's just say I spoke to him on this day. Only the notes will show up. Okay. So I have a few notes from Joe. Maybe these are different Joes. Maybe they're the same Joe. Maybe I need to move all the notes to that client. You expand on the note, right? So right next to the line item, there's the plus icon to expand the note. And then we have the move icon to move the note. Okay. So you'll have the move button. And if I click on the move button, it's gonna ask you for the reason why you're moving this note. Now we can add more reasons if we want on the back end. I just put in one just for demo purposes. So I just said registered in treat. And it's gonna ask you for the destination where we wanna move this note. So that would be Joe's file. So I'm gonna go and look for, search by his last name, and he's the only Benson that shows up, Joe Benson. Is this the client? Yes, I'm gonna select that client. And here's where you're gonna put it towards the program. Remember, he's enrolled in 2 programs. Was this note for drop-in? We can say, oh, this note was for drop-in. Let's select drop-in. And then you move the note. And it's gonna ask you, do you want to confirm that you're moving this note? Right? So I'm gonna move the note. The note will not appear here anymore on the unregistered list.
If you wanted to move both, can you click both?
No, you got to do it individually.
One at a time?
Yeah, because you have to put reasons in, so it only lets you do one at a time. Okay.
Got it.
And then if I go now to our client Joe Benson's chart, right? And if I go to his notes section, I'll see that note came in. Okay. So Joe's note is now in his file. Okay. Does that make more sense on how this workflow will work for PARC? Yes.
Anna,
Yes.
hi. I have a question and I'm just a little bit confused.
Yep.
All this that you've just done is fine. Now, my question is, for those who come into the employment program that are unregistered but maintain their part in the employment program, how does that work?
So
You
if,
under, for instance, maybe Story, you can help me out on this one. We have people who come in who are referred. Hey, Donnelly, we have someone here. They're interested in an employment program. Okay, and then are they and they're not registered, but they're still a part of the program. How does that work, Sawyer?
so what?
You're on mute.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. Donnelly, I think that's something that we'll have to figure out. I think some of those like one stop, like quick, like not ongoing might be unregistered, but I think outside of that, we would probably ask them to register as clients.
Okay.
As members, yeah.
Okay.
You could leave them as unregistered, but if you do know their name, then I would add their name in the field so that later on, if they do become clients, then you can at least search by their name and then have all their names go into their file. Right?
So if I happen to do that, that means that it's going to be a continuous number of notes, but I'll be able to move all those notes once they become registered.
Yeah, you would be able to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
So I'm wondering if we'll have like people, for example, who come to the drop-in and are unregistered. Maybe they're not sharing a lot of information at that level of interaction, but maybe they're sharing, maybe they're registered, they've become registered clients with another program. Like, how would we know that? I guess, are we always
That home screen, Melinda, like the home screen of Treat, you just the first thing you do is put the name of the client in that search field,
so
and
if
it will
they're
come
using
up.
an alias with us, but they're in housing, they have that detail of information, but they're not sharing it with drop-in. So would they be both unregistered and a client?
Yeah, because if you
Yes.
don't know their information, you don't know their information.
Yeah. Until we figure it out, right? Like until we start building rapport and trust, and maybe out of our, interactions with them, we find this out, and then we can kind of move those and consolidate those profiles.
Would that work as well for our volunteers?
I don't know if, unless volunteers are members, which most of them are, they wouldn't. So only member volunteers would have probably profiles in the system.
Which right now, I think all but one who are active volunteers on Elite are technically members.
Yes.
So yeah, we're tracking all that information in their files.
So members and clients are one of the same.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem. Good question. Okay. If
Oh,
we're
sorry. Oh, sorry, I have a question.
Of course.
I wasn't here yesterday. So for referrals, I get referrals. How do you register clients from referrals?
So that was what we went over all yesterday in that workflow. Sawyer, I don't know if you're on mute.
So yeah, sorry, Miriam, I'll go over that separately with you. And there'll be a particular way that we sort of deal with sort of CAP referrals as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so that's the workflow for the unregistered client. Let's talk about drop-in program. Okay. Drop-in program itself is a program that you guys run. Now, Nick, I have a few questions, but I think the workflow is going to work regardless. It's just a matter for the note part. So drop-in program, so you have members that are enrolled in drop-in. So those are the members who you will know are coming to drop-in when they show up. But you also have members from the community that will just show up to drop-in. You don't know who's going to come. You don't know how many are going to show up, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Currently, do you have somebody that like sits at a desk checking off the members that do attend to your drop-in?
So yeah, so this is where the confusion, okay, let me explain. So it's a low barrier, people can just walk in, and in terms of reporting participants in the drop-in, we just need to report on bodies, numbers. We
Okay.
don't have to report on unique individuals, and therefore we don't really enter everybody that enters the drop-in into the system, into the database. It's only if we work with people a little bit one-on-one, where we're doing some counseling, we're referring them to other resources, or we're helping them with whatever the immediate need is. Only then would we put them into treat and then start tracking our progress with them. But if it's them just coming in the door to eat and leave, we don't necessarily put them in the system.
Perfect. So it's just to count a number.
Yeah.
Okay. But we do have to put the drop. Let me just think here. In every drop-in session that you have, do you have at least one member showing up?
What do you mean by that? Sorry.
Like someone who's registered.
Yeah,
in
we're
treat.
always working with multiple people that are.
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to show you a couple of options, and you're going to tell me which one works for you. Okay. But essentially, when you do your workload, that will capture everybody that attended. So that stat for who attended that drop-in will show up. Now, also one other question I have regarding drop-in is, do you guys run the same drop-in programs, or can it change from year, like in a few months, you might offer different drop-in programs?
They could change potentially, or we could add new ones. Yes, like yeah. So we have a general drop-in where it's open 7 days a week, and that's a standard drop-in that doesn't change. But then we have drop-in groups that could potentially change.
Okay. So I think when we create our note for you, we might just want to create a note that is a drop-in note. Like it's just going to be called drop-in note. And the title or the note detail will be I want to say the services or the programs that you run for drop-in. Okay, because that you can change in Treat Admin. So if there's something new, you can always add it to the list. If there's something, right? Okay. So then you can at least link that note towards the drop-in program that occurred.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Let's talk about drop-in. So there's two ways you can do it. So I have my drop-in client list, right? These are all the clients that are in drop-in. I can come here and say 1, 2, 3, 4 people are attending drop-in today. Okay. We're going to create a client appointment. So you're going to go to the left navigation panel, create your client appointment. Okay. And just like any other thing you would do, we can say we ran drop-in today. And you don't even have to do this pre. You can even do it post. Right? So if the drop-in happened yesterday, we just want to enter the stats in. Right? So I can come and say yesterday we had drop-in, right? So client appointment, the program was drop-in. It was attended. Okay. We ran it from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. I don't know if that's realistic, but 2 hours. Okay. These are the clients that we had in the program. Okay. If anybody didn't show up, you would just remove them from the list. Okay. Then we come down, you have your encounter type. It was in the community. Here I would write drop-in and the program. What's a program that you guys run at drop-in?
Hockey.
Hockey. Good one. Okay. So we put drop-in hockey. And here, when you're doing your workload, or actually we're going to link it to your note, okay? So we don't have your note yet, your drop-in note. I'm just going to link it to an interaction note. Okay. And for now, we could even keep it to an interaction note and add some note detail here for you regarding drop-in program / whatever, drop-in / whatever.
Can you
So
just skip the scheduling and just go straight to interaction and add multiple people under interaction? Or
skip the scheduling part?
yeah,
Yeah, I could.
right. Like I'm just trying to figure out what's the most
You
efficient
don't
way.
need to schedule it out to see that they have drop-in? Like, do you need it on the client's schedule to show that they are going to be attending drop-in?
Not necessarily. We usually gather this after the fact because actually it's hard to, yeah, people don't necessarily.
Yeah, we could
skip.
do it the other way too. So we could do it. Okay, so if we don't do it the attendance way, I mean the scheduling way,
Yeah,
I could pick my clients.
yeah,
Okay. I can go straight to my note.
okay,
Okay. Same thing. I'll tell you the list of the clients you have here,
yeah,
right? Here you would put the interaction date and time. So here I can say it was from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock.
mhm.
Okay. And you can see here it's to drop in.
So is that list, can I just see, that's the only drop in that's in that
Right.
list?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is why I'm saying under note detail, we
Mhm.
can add options like here. You know what? Let me add one really quickly for you guys and you can see what it'll look like.
Because I'm
Sorry,
thinking if we can have all of the drop-in programs
yes.
instead of just typing something in, if we can have it selected from a drop-down list so that I
Yes.
can pull
Yeah.
a report from that, I think it would be better.
Exactly. Let me quickly add one and I'll show you what it looks like. And I'm thinking we would do what I'm going to show you right now. We would do on your own note, just so you can segregate drop in from all the other notes that will be happening in Treat. But I'm just going to quickly show you what this would look like.
The other thing that's also confusing is putting it as an interaction rather than a group note, because we right now do them as group notes.
Yeah, group notes though in Treat. Remember I showed you yesterday?
Yeah.
If you use the group note function, that's why I'm saying if you have your own drop-in note,
Yeah.
it just becomes easier. It's just like you just know that's your note. Okay, it'll show up now. So I'm just going to select my clients. I'm going to go to my note, my interaction note for now. We're going to say this was from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. Okay. You have your drop-in program. Your note detail, you can select drop-in hockey. Okay. And then you have your note if there's any additional information you need to write.
Perfect.
Okay. I don't know if you guys do or not.
No, but for the most part, we just need to see attendance for the hockey program.
Yeah. Now what you're going to do is you're going to do your workload. So your the time you spent for drop-in comes in, your program comes in, all the clients will be, the 6 clients that we selected are there. This would be in the community. The only thing you're going to do here is pick your direct workload type. Then you have this field, unreg visit. This is where you're just going to enter the number of additional people that attended.
Beautiful.
So I'm going to say 20.
Yes.
Hit save, and you're good to go. So we can see we have 20 unreg plus the 6 people from your regular note.
Yeah.
Sorry, where does it say 6 people attended? Oh, it's at the top.
It's up here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So these are the people from your organization that are enrolled in the program that attended.
Nice.
The unreg number is the number of people, additional people that showed up.
Nice.
You sign your note. Okay. And
so far,
you're
so
good to go.
So
and you're
far,
done.
So far. So this is option 1? Is there a
This
second
is-
option?
This is your option.
No, I like it. No, it's good.
The other option is doing it from the appointment.
No, I love this. This was
Yeah.
great because I was really concerned about capturing the unregistered participants that come to groups.
Yeah.
So this solves this. I think just putting in the different programs under note detail. And you said, is that admin side or is that?
So, so putting it in your interaction note for now is in Treat Admin.
Okay.
Okay. But I think because your organization, everybody in the organization is going to be using interaction note,
Mm-hmm.
I would say let's create one just for drop-in. And that way your stats can be pulled from drop-in plus
Yes.
the note detail for the type of drop-in program. And that note detail, yep, it's in Treat Admin.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So if programs evolve, change, or whatnot, we can update it accordingly.
You come in note, yeah, you come in note detail, you can archive the ones that are no longer happening, or you can add new ones to the list, and it reflects in real time.
Perfect. Sorry, I'm just wondering, is there a description? I'm just wondering because we do have this one big overarching program with little programs within it. So
Okay.
instead of putting all those multiple programs, I was thinking of putting the umbrella, but if there's a description, we can specify.
We can add it to the note.
Okay, you can add it to the note.
Well, yeah, so the note, because it's going to be a note that we're creating for you, you can tell me what fields you want in there.
Mm-hmm.
So one will be, you know, and even the term note detail, we can change that to drop-in program name or type of drop-in program or whatever you want to call it.
Perfect.
Then you can have a description field and then you can have a note field.
Perfect. Because Melinda, what I'm thinking, it would all be streets to trails, but then the description would be fishing, right? And then that's how we'll be doing it, rather than from the drop down having like fishing, canoeing, from the drop down, the note detail will just be street to trail, and then our description would be canoeing, and then we would add. So
and if you want to add, so if you want that way, Nick, that's one option. The other option is if you even want the second field to be a drop down to say canoeing, whatever, and then both of those lists can be admittable in Treat Admin. So any drop down lists you have in notes can be admittable in Treat Admin.
Perfect. Perfect. No, this is wonderful because I think this was the biggest piece of anxiety that I had from yesterday. Because this is a really important function for us to be reporting on. So
of course,
this solves this, and I appreciate it. So I hope someone like you have all this so that when we take this offline and we talk about this later, we know what we're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm going to send this to you too. And so in here, I have said that you select the members who are attended drop-in. So first I was saying from the client list, right? From your drop-in program.
Yep.
I said add a client appointment, but you don't want to do that. So I'll just change this.
We'll add an interaction note.
Interaction note.
Yeah.
Okay. And then your workload, I put in here, and I know it's a little small right now, but you'll see it, that in your unreg section, you're going to add the number of people who attended the group who aren't registered in Treat.
Beautiful.
Okay, so you're going to have these slides, so you'll be able to follow this.
Wonderful. No, that's great.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Melinda, any feedback?
No, I think this will work. I can see it now. It's good.
Awesome.
Okay, and then your workload, you'll add the number of unreg clients. Okay.
Yay, yay, yes, perfect.
Good, good, good. So a piece of homework I need from you, and if you can do this as soon as possible, is what you want this note to look like. Okay, so you've seen the notes here, like you've seen the types of notes we have, right? So if I look at my interaction note, I can see there's a note detail, it's a drop-down list. You can label this whatever you want and what drop-down you would want. Your description field, do you want it as a text box or do you want it as another drop-down? And what that would look like, what items you would want in that drop-down. And then we'll just keep a note field, like an open text box for you. Okay, but if there's anything else you feel like you need to capture in this note, let me know. Okay, perfect. And the reason why I'm saying I need it as soon as possible is because we have got to put a ticket to get the note built. And I'd like to get that in as soon as possible. Okay, good. 2 big items we knocked out. How are we feeling? We're okay? Is anyone not okay? Okay, good. Good. Okay, we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about assessments, and then we'll take a short break, and then Babak's going to come on and do the demo for the OCAN. So assessments and treat.
I'm just reading something in the notes. Sorry, Anna. Paula has a question. If a drop-in
sorry.
unregistered user that is getting support receives help to change their mailing address to PARC, then is the drop-in staff really making an internal referral to the Money Matters program? Should they use treat flag to flag the Money Matters by adding the client to Money Matters somehow? Flagging the Money Matters worker could be helpful.
Okay. So someone comes in to drop in and they want to receive a different service. That's the gist of it. And then how would that person enroll them in that program, or how do they notify the Money Matters team?
Correct.
Okay, good question. And we're going to come to that when we talk about tasks and alerts. So can we
Perfect.
just
Yep.
table that for now, but we will come back to that. We have a feature in Treat called custom tasks where you can task somebody.
Nice. Okay.
And then we'll go through that workflow. So great question. We'll just table it for a little bit later. Okay, assessments. So assessments in Treat is the loose term we have for forms and assessments. They all live in the same area of Treat. So like I said, in the left navigation panel of your client, you'll see an assessments tab. Okay, that's where all the assessments live. So when you fill out an intake form or a consent form or any types of forms or any assessments, or even the OCAN, it will live in this section. Now, we don't have any forms in your environment, so I'm just going to log out of your environment and go to our demo site so we can show you. Okay, so I have a client here, Jennifer Addy, and if I go to her left navigation panel under assessments, this is where I can see all the assessments that she has filled out. Okay, so here I can see existing assessments. Okay, you'll see the date, you'll see the type of assessment, who filled it out, whether it's in progress or it's completed. So there are certain forms that we can build in Treat that allow you to be in progress mode, or it would just be completed, and that means it's been submitted. Okay. Up at the top here, you can see there's a title for new assessments, and there's a drop down. These are where your assessments will live. So the OCAN will be here. Your intake form will be here. Okay, all these types of forms will live here. So you select the one you want to work with. Okay, so we're going to talk about intake. Babak will talk about OCAN, so I'm not going to go into OCAN right now. But one of the
This is also where consents live.
Yeah. And you'll also have your consent form as well. Okay. So those are the few types of things you'll see here. I'm going to open up one that we haven't treated. It's not going to look like yours because it's not, yours is being built right now, but just to give you an idea of what it'll look like. Okay, Donnelly?
With this, I remember asking a question about incident forms, incident reports. Would it be housed here?
Your incident report, if I remember correctly, and then I'm just going to check, is actually going to be a note.
That's right. That's right. Okay, got it.
Yeah, your incident report is going to be a note.
Okay.
So that is going to live in your notes section.
Okay.
Okay.
I remember. Yeah. Thank you.
No
and we're
problem.
getting to that after lunch?
Well, no, we can't really get into that right now because we don't have it built yet, right? It's in development, your note. But essentially what would happen with your note is like all your other notes, like your interaction note, your whatever note, it's going to live in your notes section.
Mm-hmm.
And then you would just choose that note to fill out. Okay. When those types of things are built, we'll do a training with your super users that we've been on how it works, and then you guys can train your staff when those ones are developed already. Okay, so assessments, I'm going to choose a consent form. Okay, so this is a consent form another organization built. So you would choose the form you want to fill out and you're going to click on add assessment. And then you're going to see this screen pop up. This is a pre-assessment tool. Okay, this just says you're going to link the assessment towards an encounter, so towards the program. So they have different programs. Again, this is going to look different because it's not your environment. But we can see there's one that's 49 Queen, because when I was testing stuff out in demo, I put it in here. So we can say, let's put it towards the housing. Okay. Your visit type will be initial. This will auto-populate for you guys, so you won't need to worry about that. And same with group, you won't need to worry about that. And then you hit continue. Once you hit continue, the form opens up. Now, everyone's form will look different, but you can see here along the top, you might have different tabs to your form, right? Or you might just have one tab with all the information, okay? You might have questions that are checkboxes. You might have questions that are drop down. You might have questions that are open text fields. So it just depends what your form will look like, but essentially you will fill this form out here. So I can say yes, yes. If I say yes, a note, like a note opened up, you fill it out. Do you want to complete the consent form now? You say yes. You go to next. They have more questions here, so I can see it opened up a different tab. Put in some information. Within your assessments too, you'll have certain fields that are mandatory and not mandatory. This form looks like there's nothing mandatory because we don't have that little box here that tells you all the mandatory fields that are required. Essentially, once you're done your form, you'll see a little submit button. Once you submit it, you'll be able to see that it's completed. Okay, so you can see the answers come up in raw results. From here, you can print your assessments. So at the top here, there's a print icon. I can print it in PDF so that you could save it. If you need to email it to any clients, you can do so as well. Okay.
So, Anna, consents need to be signed, right?
Yeah. So you guys will have the ability to sign yours. And I think this one, again, this is a demo one. It's not yours.
No, I mean,
so it's,
I mean
right?
they need to be signed by the client, right?
Yeah. So we
So-
have that capability in yours. We put in that e-signature for you guys. So if you guys have the ability to have, if you're working with your clients, they have access to the computer or tablet, they can e-sign on that, or you can print it out and get them to sign it.
And then we would upload it in document.
Exactly.
So it wouldn't appear in here.
So the initial assessment will,
Okay.
but not the, once you print it and they have to sign it, then you would upload it in external documents. Yeah. Okay. Let me show you an example of your, what's it called? An intake form. So I'm just going to go back to a different assessment and I'm going to click on intake and you're going to add that assessment. And same thing, you're going to put that intake towards the program that they're enrolled in. Okay. They have different ones. So you can see here, this intake is a little bit different. They have more tabs across the top. They have some items that are mandatory. They have text boxes. They have check boxes. If I go to different tabs, different questions pop up, right? So your intake will look different than this as well. But essentially, you can just come in here and fill it out for this client's profile to eliminate all the paper documents. Okay. And once you save them and you submit them, so let me just, you'll see they all live here. So once you've completed them, we can see all of them are here. Okay, and then again, if you ever want to filter for them and just say, okay, I just want to look for all the assessments for this program, or I want to filter for all the consent forms, you can filter for that way as well. Okay. And again, we'll have further training on the assessments piece once they're actually built into your environment. But I just want to show you kind of where they live how to access them, and where all the filled out ones will be. Any questions on the assessments? Right. So all the assessments, so just one thing to note, all the assessments will have these little buttons at the bottom. One is spell check, one is save and exit, cancel, submit, or next. And if they have to be co-signed, you'll see co-sign. With Treat, I know sometimes you're busy or in the middle of something, you might get a phone call and you have to leave. You have the option to save and exit, and it'll keep everything in progress, so you won't lose any of that data that you already put in. Okay, so if you're in your work, if you're working within it and you have to go take a call or you have to go to an appointment or another meeting, you can save and exit, and I'll put that assessment in progress, and you can always come into it and edit it and make changes to it. Okay. Oh,
So the question I have is, especially around interruptions, if you start doing this assessment, then you look up and you notice you're in the wrong client's file, is there some way to be able to adjust that?
unfortunately not. No, you can't. You can't move something to another client. You would have to like disregard it or delete it and then start again. Yeah. Yeah, we can't move assessments from one client to another. So once you submit it, you'll see that tab of raw results. That just shows you all the items that you filled out, right, from all the tabs. It kind of condenses everything and puts it out in one form. And then you have the option. So if you had any assessments that do scoring, right, because there's some assessments, like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with like the ASQ3 or the PHQ9 or different assessments people build. Sometimes they have scoring to them. We have a scoring tab too that would score it out for you. And then you also have the option to edit. So from here, if you see that there's an answer that was incorrect, you can go back to the form and edit it. Now, once you submit the form, based on some parameters that are set on the initial build, you will be able to edit it within a certain time frame. So you might have like 3 days or 5 days or 24 hours or whatever it is to make any edits before the assessment is locked. Okay. Okay. Any questions? Okay, I'm just gonna skip over to workload really quickly. I'm just gonna go for another 20 minutes and then we'll take a short break before Babbitt comes on. So we talked about workload. We showed you how you can do workload from a note, right? You'll always see it at the bottom of the note. That's the most common way for people to track the workload. But you can also track workload separately from your calendar. So for example, sometimes you may want to track, some organizations may want to track workload that isn't necessarily related to a visit, right? You might want to track your workload that you spent, in total 45 minutes today doing paperwork, or you spent 45 minutes today like sending out emails or whatever. I don't know how granular your organization is on tracking that, but if you did want to, you can also track workload from your treat page at the top. So let me go back to your organization here. Okay. So right at the top where it says Data Manager on your blue bar, you'll see there's a tab here for workload management. Okay. If I click on workload management, this workload manager is going to show up. So from here, you can view workload that's already been entered. So I can see my workload from, you know, April 1 to April 30th. I can search for my workload that I've entered. I can do it by program, where I can look at by all programs. And if I apply filters, you have to search it by client. So let's say, who was I using yesterday? I think I was using Anna Test. Right? It'll show me for this client all the workload that's been entered for this client. Okay, so I can see on the 22nd, workload was entered, right? And it's showing me from the 1st to the 30th because that's what I set my parameter to. So you can see that, and it'll give you a little total here for per program, what you have. Okay. So this is for this client specifically. You can also use this screen to add workload. So if I want to add workload for just a program, so I can say, you know what, for community access today, I spent like an hour just sending out emails. So this is just program specific. It's not linked to any clients, right? I can say, you know what, this was just non-clinical time. So, oh, let's not put direct. I can say just non-clinical time that I want to track and enter. And I'll say it was for office work. Okay. I spent this much time doing office work for this program. And you just have to put a visit type in the office. Or I could say it was emails, right? And hit save. So if you guys track time like that, like if your workers need to track workload like that, that's how they would do it. So it's not related to a client specific. It's just related for a program to say you spent X amount of time doing paperwork, sending out emails, doing office work, etc. Donnelly?
Yes. For instance, if you have a set time that you do this on a daily basis, is it a way that you can actually input it, like say weekly or bi-weekly? Because usually there's a set time that I do a certain type of work daily.
Yep,
So,
you could do it. You could lump it together if you like.
in the calendar, like if you're going to
So
put
you
the
can't
date,
add, I can't add every, you have to put it towards one date. But if you're doing it for the month, and if you only need to, like, you need to capture for the month, say you did it for the last day of the month, then you can just put in, you know, total for this month. So if it's not going to let me do the 30th because it's ahead of time. But let's just say for today, I'm putting in, you know, 120 minutes, so 2 hours. And I can just say I did office work, and it'll just track that time for you, right? Now, it depends again on an organization level. Do you guys look at it on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis? Overall, then you may want to consider doing it weekly or bi-weekly or monthly.
I don't think we track this level of work at this time.
Yeah.
Workers might want to do it, right? Like different employees might want to do it because it's interesting for them.
Yeah.
But this isn't something, at least right now, that we're tracking.
Perfect. So then you won't have to worry about this.
But I mean, you know,
Just-
Donna-Lee might want to know how many hours a month do I do on case notes? How many hours a month
Yep.
do I do on, right? Like she might
Exactly.
want to know that, and
Yep.
she could
Like,
use this then.
I just wanted to with my time that I spend from let's say 2 hours a day building resumes or reviewing cover letters, those type of things that I think is important for
Yeah,
me
this is where you
put
would put
in.
that.
Yeah,
100%. You would pick your program. So you would pick
right.
employment, whichever, right? Whichever
Yeah,
one it is.
right.
Put in your non-clinical time, whatever your total is for the month, or if you want to do it by week, however you want to track it.
Okay.
You just put in your minutes here, put in the date you're entering that stat, and maybe again you want to be a little bit more specific with some of these drop-down options. Speak to Sawyer, we can get these options changed.
Okay.
But right now we have like an office work one. You can just say
Okay.
office work. Yep.
All right.
And then
Thank
you
you.
hit save, and that will track it towards your your stats for your program. Yeah. Again, not something maybe everyone will do, but it's just an option out there for you guys to do if you choose. Okay.
This may be a really stupid question, but I know when you were doing it, we were still under a particular client at the top and a test, but that's not necessary, right?
Oh,
Like,
that's because yeah, sorry. No,
no,
that's
we
not
could
necessary.
we could be doing this not related to a
Yeah,
client.
again, right here, if you just come here and you just go, if I just come straight to my homepage
Okay, gotcha.
and data manager, workload manager, and just go to add workload, you're
Yeah.
just putting it towards a program, but there's no clients being linked here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I think you saw Anna because before I was showing you how you can look for workload associated to specific clients. So yeah, good question. Okay, that's workload and how you can do that outside of, you know, having it linked to your note. Okay. Co-signatures. So do you guys ever require somebody to co-sign your note? No. Okay. Do you still want me to show it to you?
Do you mean like in a consent? Sometimes we need a witness.
No, I'm
Okay,
talking
okay.
about a
You're talking
manager
about a
that,
note. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, like a manager that might need to sign off on a note.
Not
We
at
might be
this
doing it for
time.
incident reports.
Yes, for incident reports. Yes.
Yeah. So we would have to sign off on, like right now we don't sign off on them. We approve them. So with the new treat system, if we're doing incident reports in notes, then it would be good for a manager to co-sign an incident report if it's in the
Perfect.
note section.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, I'm going to show you how that works then. In Treat, we have the ability to co-sign notes. So again, we don't have your incident report built, so I'm just going to show it to you on another note, but the gist is the same. Okay. Oh, no, you never changed your password, did you, when I sent you your original one?
I did not.
Okay, let me just see if I can log in as you, because I'm going to use you as an example. Perfect. Okay. Okay, so I'm logged in as VitalHub support. Okay, I am gonna write a note under this client's profile. So I have this client, Charles Roux. I'm gonna go to his notes. I'm gonna add an interaction note. So here you would have your incident report note, but we don't have it yet. I have my interaction note, right? I'm just gonna say no for now, but I'm gonna say this. You would put it towards whatever happened, right? What program that incident occurred. Note details, same thing. You might just say, you know, whatever your note is. Okay, you're going to write out your note. Your incident report is a little bit more tailored, specific questions, has some drop downs, whatever. You would write your note. All cosigns will be here. So you can see just above this, there's a cosign required by. Here's where you fill in the person that needs to cosign. So your manager or whoever needs to cosign that note. For this instance, I'm going to put Una. Okay, I'm going to say Una's my manager. I filled in a note. She needs to co-sign it. Okay.
Can there be more than one person on that drop down?
Let's see if I can add Nick.
Maybe can we select more? Yeah, can we select
Yeah.
more than one person?
There was an option to select more. I think this note only allows you to do one.
Okay.
Yeah, so see
But
when this one says you can
but in
only
the
select
IR
one cosign.
But in the IR, we can maybe select more.
I can find out for you.
Because I'm just thinking, like, it might not be someone's specific manager. It might be the MOD, right?
Which all of
So
us would be
at
there
one
anyway,
time.
probably.
But then we have to have the choice, you have to be able to choose, right?
Sorry, who's the MOD? What's the MOD?
So each one of us is assigned manager on duty per day. So if an incident
Oh, I see.
occurs, I
Yes.
think it would be the person looks up who the MOD is for that day, do the incident report, and then have the cosign be that MOD.
Yes.
So, and I mean, I don't know if we want to duplicate what we have right now, right? But all the managers plus the ED and the executive program director all see incident report.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So they'd all need to be alert, like if we duplicate what we have, which we may or may not be able to do,
But
we'd want everybody to be able to get a notification.
So
I've been working with Monica on a different system. So the incident
Okay.
reports in Treat are specifically just to link clients to like our members to an incident. But then
Yeah.
there's going to be a smart sheet form that actually holds all the information that managers will get alert that it's been added to the smart sheet.
Okay.
So it can just go, they can just assign it to the manager on duty to sign, and then all the managers will get the alert of this smart sheet input.
Okay, but still, we would need to list all the managers in the drop down because the MOD changes by day.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is an incremental search based on the workers you have in Treat. So as long as your managers have a profile in Treat, we can search anybody here.
Okay.
So I can say, let's search Nick, right? Let's search.
Okay.
So you could see everybody shows up. You
Mhm.
pick whoever is the manager on duty to send that note to.
Great.
Okay.
And can you export the form? Can you, like, after you fill out the incident report, can it be exported and then saved externally?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So then it can be saved to the smart sheet. That's what you're
Yeah.
thinking?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's going to be a big smart sheet.
Okay.
Yes,
so
I did it for last year. It's big.
I am sending it to Una. Okay, so I picked Una as the manager on duty. She's going to get my report, and I'm going to send it to her. Sorry, Donnelly, do you have a question, or is that from before?
No, I don't have a question.
Okay.
Oh, let me put it, I'm sorry, let me put
No,
that,
that's okay.
click that off.
Okay, so Una is going to get the cosign. You're going to finish your note, finish what you have to write. You're going to do your workload like you would always do. This can just be, it took me like 10 minutes to fill out this form, yada, yada, yada. It was in the office, hit save. Okay, I am going to sign my note, okay? Like I always do, sign my note. Now what you'll see is under my note, you'll see it says pending cosign. Okay. So under my note, we see it says pending cosign. All good? At this point, there's nothing more you can do. You filled in your form, you assigned it to Una, your job is done. Okay? I am now going to log off and sign in pretending I'm Una. So Una's the manager on duty. She's going to log into Treat.
Before you do that, so can anybody still open it even though it's pending?
It'll be in pending. Yeah, it'll be in edit status. It won't be submitted. It's not a signed note yet.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to log on to Una. And Una's going to log in and just give it a minute. And you can see here she has a notification. She has a number 1 showing up on her blue bar under that notification. Okay. If she clicks on it, she's going to see that it says notes requiring your co-signature 1. Okay. She's going to click on that and it's going to show her the note. So she can see that what she has that's pending a cosign. She's going to expand on this note and she's going to read the contents. She's going to see what it said, right? Now at the bottom, she has 3 options. She can cosign it and be done. She can edit it and then cosign it. So she might say, you know what, actually something else needs to be changed. She might want to add to it or not. Okay. or she can send the corrections back to me. Okay, so she might click on this. She might say, please adjust the correct time or whatever, right? And then submit it, and then I'll get it back to make the changes. Okay. But for this purpose, let's just say she's just going to sign it. Are you sure you want to co-sign this note? Yes, co-sign it. It won't be displayed here anymore because it's done. She did it. But if she goes back to that client's profile, and I forget which client it was that we were working with.
It was Rue Charles.
Rue's Charles, part of drop-in program, right? Yeah. So now if we go to Rue's note, we can see that pending cosign has been removed because she signed it. Okay. Good. Okay. Donnelly. Oh, you took it down. Okay.
Yeah, I meant to say a thumbs up, sorry.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Okay, great. So that's how cosign works, right? You can pick who you want to cosign. They will receive a notification, but you will see on your note, it will say pending cosign. When they log on, they'll see the notification of how many notes or what they have required for a co-signature. They will expand it. And then from here, they can choose to co-sign it or edit and co-sign or send it back to you to make some corrections.
So
Just a
Okay.
quick.
Sorry, go ahead, Nick.
No, I was just going to say, you were saying that the pending cosign still is in edit status. So does that mean that nobody else can go into that person's profile?
No, they can. They can.
Okay,
For
they
the
can.
pending
Okay.
notes, they can. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
they can read the note,
Yeah.
even the one pending.
Yes. Yeah. They'll
So-
just be able to expand on it and read the note.
So I'm just thinking how we might use cosign. This is for, not for you, Anna, but we may want to use it for new staff who aren't experienced with something like this. And we could say, for the first couple of weeks, all your notes need to be co-signed.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yep.
We don't do that right now, but it could be something that we do, or someone, or even a staff who doesn't feel confident in their notes, and it's like, I want you to look at them before I post them.
Yeah.
So we could do that.
For
Yep.
sure.
That happened in a place I used to work, so that's why it occurred to me.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Let's take a short break. Babak's going to be on at 11, so if we can all take a break and be back by 11, and then we'll do the OCAN demo with Babak.
Awesome.
Anna, are we meeting again this afternoon after lunch?
Yes.
And can you just show me the schedule again?
Yes. So we went through workload already, and we went through cosign already. So we're going to talk about tasks and alerts and lockbox and care planning. And then just a couple of quick little features in Treat, and then we're done.
Okay. And that's starting at 1. Sorry, I'm just thinking about bringing someone else, like maybe bringing Eric back in for that this afternoon.
Yeah.
Maybe 1 to 3.
I think that's a safe assumption.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so we'll see you guys at 11 o'clock. All right.
Did you get your ducks done? Is it done?
Sorry, I said not yet. I said they say between
I
like
know, don't you hate that? I know
uh-huh.
they have you waiting all day.
Yep. All right, we're just gonna wait for everybody else to join and Babak to join. Hi, Babak.
Hello. Okay. So,
Gonna give it a minute for everybody
Sure.
else to come back in. We just took a short little break. Yeah, for those folks on off camera, if you just want to put a thumbs up if you're back, we know we can get started. Perfect. I think you're good, Babak.
Okay. So, hi everyone, Babak Matsudu. I'm the Director of Professional Services. You might have seen me on some previous calls. I'm here to talk to you about the OCAN in particular. The OCAN is just like any other assessment in TREAT, but there is some unique workflows that are associated with it, and there's also a submission that potentially goes along with it that we'll talk about today. To start, I'm going to assume everyone knows TREAT, front end, enrolling a client, that sort of stuff. Hopefully, we're all used to discussing at this point. But to be able to use the OCAN, the prerequisites are that the client needs to exist. So they need to have a demographics page that you've completed or at least saved into the system. There is, you might have noticed at the bottom, some OCAN specific questions. We'll come back to these in a bit. And then you need to have them enrolled in a program. So when you go and say, I'm enrolling them in 15001 Queen Street West or in the PARC drop-in program, they just need to be enrolled in a program. With that out of the way, you can go to the assessments and you'll be able to select the OCAN assessment. Now, if you're familiar with the OCAN, that's great, and hopefully you're able to follow. If you're not familiar, some of this stuff that I'm going to say might sound like mumbo jumbo, but essentially OCAN has a variety of different versions. There's two major types, the full and the short, let's call it that. And depending on that version, there's also the OCAN heartbeat, which is okay, you do one initially, and then you do one maybe 6 months after, and then you do one every 6 months after that, and then you do one when the client's discharged. Now, how diligent the organizations are about doing this and the recurring ones, will stay out of that, but that's typically the workflow recommended for the OCAN. While we're here, does anyone know at Parkdale if you guys do the core or the full OCAN?
We do both.
You do both. Okay. Is there like some programs that do one versus some programs that do the other type of deal, or it's just like the flavor of the day, who's brave, who's not?
Well, no, it's depending on our members, our clients. If they don't have the capacity to be able to do
Gotcha.
the full one, then the worker will just do the short one.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. The reason why I ask is because if I launch the full one, if you're not used to it, it can be pretty scary, but we'll go and look at that one. The full one, and I'll explain the difference between the two of them. And you'll see here there is a full initial, and then there's a core initial. There's also core plus self. That's the third option. I'll explain the difference, but I see the head nod, so you guys probably know what I'm already talking about. And then, like I mentioned, the heartbeat. So you see there's the reassessment. The idea is every 3 to 6 months, you're doing a reassessment. Significant change. This is an ad hoc one, same as review. The idea being when maybe they went through a significant life change, or you're just doing a review session for whatever reason, you can document that in. Rekey is a very unique one, and it relates to the submission. So we'll talk about the submission in a little bit more detail, but essentially when you do a rekey, it does not go to the submission. What the rekey can be used for is setting the heartbeat. For example, when you go live and you have brand new clients and you want to set it so that, hey, our last assessment with them was 6 months ago, but I wanted that in the system so that we can pick up the heartbeat and continue forward, but I don't want that to be part of the submission. That's where rekey comes into play. We'll talk a little bit about the submission, and then other consumer requests, etc. Just again, another ad hoc one that you can do at any time. So we're going to look at the full initial. Another unique question pertaining to the OCAN is whether the form is being done by the OCAN lead. Now, this is a specific OCAN thing. The idea is that there is an OCAN lead for the client who's receiving the OCAN, and that's usually the person that's filling it out. If it's not being filled out by the OCAN lead, the idea is going to be you need to provide a different version or reason as to why you're doing that. So for now, yes to OCAN lead, straightforward, initial full. We'll click continue, and this is the OCAN. So the core OCAN is essentially the first two tabs here, the CIS1 and CIS2. The core plus self will be the self plus the core CIS1 and CIS2. And the full is what you're seeing in front of you, which is the first three that we talked about, as well as tabs 1 through 24, as summaries and a completion tab. So let's take a look at these pages one by one. I'll categorize them like the self, the core section, and then the domains, okay? So the self section, the idea of this is a self-assessment that the client does themselves. Now, the way we've designed this form is all forms have a version where you can make the whole form client enter mode, but you'll see there's a client mode checkbox in the top here. What this does, if I click this checkbox, it'll give me a heads up as to what I'm doing. But what it will do is, if you notice, I can no longer navigate to any of the other tabs at the top here. And in fact, I can only really stay on this page, which is the self-assessment page. And if I try to save, exit, cancel, or submit any of these buttons, it'll ask for the user password, which would be the staff member that's logged in. The idea is that if you want, you can start the form. If the client's there with you in person, you can hand them the laptop or device after you've clicked client mode with confidence that they can only remain on this page. They can do the self-assessment section. And when they're done, they can click cancel, save and exit, or submit. Typically, you'll tell them save and exit, in which case they'll have to pass it back to you to enter your password, and you can jump back into it and take it from there. So there's my OCAN that's in progress. Now, if I jump back into it, I'll see what was entered in the self-assessment, but now I can navigate to the rest of the fields and fill it. Okay, so that's the self-assessment, very unique, specific workflow. The idea is you give it to the client, they can answer it themselves as part of the OCAN documentation. The CIS 1 and 2 tabs, so this is the core OCAN. Essentially, most of this information is about who the agency is and some socio-demographic information about the client. Now, in particular, there is 4 or 5 specific fields here that we've tried to auto-populate for you. And this also relates to the submission. Again, I'm leading up to the submission discussion. We're going to get there. Where we need to talk about how you want the OCAN information packaged. So in the OCAN world, at least in Ontario, when you submit the form, there is an agency from the ministry side called IAR that takes this information as part of a provincial data set that other orgs can log into. So what's going on is each agency does their own OCAN. They submit that information into the IAR portal, and all agencies can log into the IAR portal as long as the client has granted, everyone can see that information on the IAR portal side. Are you following me? Do you do the IAR submission today? Does anyone know the answer to that?
I don't have that answer.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't
So
either. Sorry.
that's
Yeah,
okay.
me either.
That's okay. So it's not uncommon because it's one of those things that even if it was set up, someone set it up day one and then you never heard about it again. And then the agency behind it is not very proactive necessarily. They're not going to knock on your door if they're involved. The reason why I mention all of this is because this information in particular is used to label the data as part of this interface. Otherwise, it's not really too important. We do want it to be filled because it's mandatory information. And you can see we've already put in some info that we were relatively confident about. This information comes from an agency called Connex Ontario. So they document the mental health services in these agencies across the province, and they have an ID allocated to their program, but also their services. So if you don't see the right coding, that's the folks to reach out to. And if I search here, for example, Parkdale, you'll see there is a specific list that shows up as I'm going through it. Similarly, if I search for programs here, you'll notice there is a specific list of options that's registered there. Now, cost centers, this is something we need to talk about. Again, if you're submitting, it's much more important than if you're not submitting to the IR interface, what we decide here. But just know that we can also default this option as well, so that your staff do not need to enter this information every time they're doing an OCAN. So if you have, for us, I don't know if you currently fill this out in your OCANs that you do today, but if you have for us the cost center, or if you want to confirm the other information that we're putting into these auto-populated fields, which is the organization LIN, organization, program, functional cost center, and the service delivery LIN. So these 5 fields, if you want to give us those, we can auto-populate them per program, what you want those options to be. With that aside, so a very quick segue, for the interface as well, if you're interested, we've shared this with you before, but we can share it again, no problem. The agency responsible is CCIM. They have a service desk that you reach out to by email, and essentially to get on the list or to start this process, you just need to reach out to them and say that you're going through a vendor transition or that you're going to a new electronic health record. They can then guide you through the rest of the process if you're interested in that interface. Okay. If we don't have that info, we will not be able to set up the interface for you. So I just want to set that expectation out there. Okay. So that submission segue aside, the rest of the fields here are essentially hopefully stuff that you're used to. So who is the OCAN lead? Now this is a free text field that I'm just going to put here. Your phone number. Again, they have very specific questions that they ask. Now I'm not going to fill it out the whole way, but just filling out a few fields here so you can get a look and feel for the fields. Now with assessments, since OCAN's your only one, I'll just take it second here. Similar feel to the other pages in Treat, where you have a series of mandatory questions that you're responsible for out the gate. And those are highlighted with asterisk on the question level, but you also see it at the tab level to indicate that there's mandatory questions remaining. And once you've answered them, I'm going to answer these questions because I know they're going to be required. And you can see there's a tally on the right-hand side for anything that I've missed. So there's still 3 mandatory questions. If I click on it, it'll take me there. When I answer it, it'll fall off my list. I click on the next one, I can answer it, it'll fall off the list, and I can see the last one here. And once I've clicked all that and it's all answered, it's cleared, I'm ready to go to the next tab. And you'll see that asterisk fall off the tab number. Now, sometimes you'll run into edit checks. So edit checks are beyond just, is it mandatory or not? It's a secondary level validation. For example, if I say food is an unmet need, the OCAN requires that 2, 3A, and 3B, which is essentially the gauge of how much of an unmet need is it, are required to be answered. So these will trigger if you click this refresh button, or if you try to click submit, it'll let you know as well that you're missing this information. And if you answer it similarly, you can click the refresh button and it'll clear out any of those if there are any. So I kind of transitioned, but the core section, CIS 1 and 2, you can see there isn't a lot of mandatory fields. So CIS 2, there's some items down here about sociodemographic information. You can see some of that info here and some language information. Then we can again talk about if there's a need to default these options, if it makes sense. So with those answered, that's the core. The full has 24 domains of potential need that the client might have. Now, it could be pretty quick how you navigate if you know the person, but you might need to take some time asking questions. So the first one's about accommodations. Second one's about food. Third one's about looking after the home. And if they have no need, you can just simply usually click no need. And that's really all you need to answer on that tab. So I'm just going to kind of do that. You can see there's some more on this one. And I'll just answer these quickly just to show you the process once through. Any questions while I'm filling these out? Hopefully the questions seem relatively familiar because they should be more or less copy paste from whatever version you're using today, maybe a different UI. Obviously, the full quite a bit more questions, but making our way through here. And now I'm using my keyboard. I'm cheating a little bit, but just clicking the down arrow. Maybe we'll put them in secondary, college, university. No need, no need, no need, no need. Some more stuff here. Okay. Now, you'll eventually get to the summary section. In the summary section, what you'll see here is the notes that you took for any of the items from 1 to 24, where you put a plan in there. So it'll just bring that forward for you. It's the same information. And you can see here for any of them that are unmet, you need to provide a priority. So the OCAN, the way it works, you have 24 things. If let's say they had all 24 things as a need, then you need to prioritize 1 through 24. In this case, they only had 2 needs, so I'm going to rate them 1 and 2. So let's say accommodations, number 1, food, number 2. And I'll put a plan here for food, work with client to find nearby food banks, not food banks.
And with the
And
edit checks, you won't be able to move forward unless those edit checks are consolidated, correct?
Correct. Let me show you. So if let's say I didn't do this, actually I can keep that. Let's say I didn't rank this one. We'll come back to it, okay? Just remember I didn't do that one. So I'll say completed today. I go to submit. Now there'll be several things that are missing. Don't worry about all of that right now. The one that I want you to look at is this one, the food priority. Now this one is a warning, and you can see there's kind of a distinction of these two different things. If you see it in error, you will see missing or error. These you have to resolve. The submission or the requirements of the documentation do not allow this to not be captured. The warnings are allowable to skip. So if you click submit again and you only have warnings, you will be able to submit. So in the case of the priorities, technically it's a warning, but you can see there's other items that I have to resolve. Now, if you click on any of them on that page, it'll take you to that question and you can answer it and you can jump back and that'll be off the list now. Now, there's some fields here that you'll see that says the source on the right-hand side. So these warnings are all in the assessment. So it's just telling me, hey, request for service, you didn't put it, it's going to be put as unknown. If you put no decision date, it's going to be unknown. But these ones are in the client section. So if I click on one of these, service recipient location, it's going to actually take me to the demographics page, funnily enough, because some of this information is actually from the demographics page, and it's all in this bottom section under IAR OCAN admin fields. Now, these are some of the stats that don't typically change for a client. So these information are things that are more stable, as it were, for the information. So we typically have an approach of you do it once and only if you need to really revision it.
Sorry, can you just show us where that is again?
The demographics, yeah. So the way I navigated to it was from the missing messages on the assessment. But if you're just filling it out on a intake level, you'll see it on the demographics page. So when you're creating the client chart, so let's say I was doing a brand new client, right? A brand new client, you'll see it at the bottom, IER OCAN administrative fields. But if for an existing clients, you can just click on them and go to their demographics. And once again, at the very bottom, you'll see IER OCAN administrative fields. Now, some of them you'll see they have an asterisk beside them. I hope that's visible. These ones you need to have. So I'm just going to go ahead and answer these quickly. It doesn't really matter what I put here for our purposes. And you can click save. There is one field that is very unique. And you can see it's this IER viewing consent. And you can change this whether you're in edit mode or in viewing mode, because they're very strict about this IER viewing consent. Now, this has to do with the interface. If you don't have the interface, functionally, this button is doing nothing, okay? But what this does is, for the interface, the way they have it, if you have this field set to grant, on the IER portal site, if other agencies go and search Sam Smith, they will see a Parkdale completed OCAN in the system if you have done that. If you set this to deny, although the information is still sent to IER, they will not be viewable by any other agency other than Parkdale. Does that make sense? Okay. But
Will
again,
will it show an OCAN for Sam Smith? You just can't see the details? Correct. Okay.
Yeah, you know that it was done. I don't have a portal access. What I've been told by other agencies is that you can see that it was done and you can see who it was done by, like the agency, but you can't see the content of it.
So that's a big improvement, because in the past you'd had to call the agency, try to track down the worker who did the OCAN. It was, yeah, very
So you may
troublesome.
want to get you set up on that portal. So, and I don't know if you can dig up that email again with the CCIM contact to flip it over. It has the
Yeah.
instructions as to kind of like what to say, so to speak, but it all starts with that email from the agency. They don't work with the vendors, they work with the organizations.
Yep.
Okay, so we go back to the OCAN, right, with our questions answered. Let's see if I still have anything missing. I can click the summary tab, or I can click at the very bottom, submit for scoring. I got two things missing, gender and marital status. So let's see, is there a marital status? Yep, I missed that asterisk. So let's say single. And then where is gender? So there's OCAN genders. There is very specific options. Now these may match. Let's see. No, they don't quite match your options here. I don't know. It looks slightly different, but if they are the same, again, we can talk about auto population, but they have very specific options that they collect on their side. Now, with that saved, because I launched it from the assessment, it takes me back to the assessment, even though the information is saved on the demographics page. And now that I have no more missing and I only have warnings, I can click submit a second time. It'll go through and I can click submit here and I am done. So the OCAN is saved in the system. It's completed. I can navigate through the different tabs here, or I can click complete assessment to see the full thing. If I want, I can print it. The print icon is in this top left corner here. It'll give me a printout of it that I can then put into PDF or a printer. If I wanted to, was there a question? Oh, it's just that, sorry. You can click the edit button and you can go back into the assessment. If you made a mistake or if you need to make an update, you can do that. So maybe it's a met need, moderate problem. Oh, sorry, now I have to answer these guys. You can see the assessment does guide you. If you miss it, you'll get used to some of the navigation, hopefully over time. Now, if you make any changes in assessments, in here, you're going to see the latest and greatest. This is the one that I changed. But at the bottom of the page, you'll have a submission history. So every time this form was updated or changed, it'll get a revision version at the bottom here. As well as that, on the right-hand side, there's a show item edit history. If you select that, it will show you per question each time it was modified, what was the modification. So although in the form page you only see the latest and greatest, the audits can show you everything that was changed per change. Now I want to talk a little bit about the care plan and then the heartbeat, but before I go there, any questions about the OCAN functionality? As a summary, you need to have a demographics and an enrollment. It would be a good idea to finish the IR OCAN admin fields while you're doing the demographics, but if you miss them, when you get to the assessment, it will remind you that that's needed. Paula?
Can you upload any documents to OCAN?
Like a PDF?
My thoughts
One-
about the self-assessment, just being able for the client to only do it on a laptop or a tablet. Sometimes a worker might want to print it out and take it somewhere outside of the organization and just sit down with the client and go over it, especially if English is not their first language or they have literacy issues.
Yeah. So yes, but let's talk about, and this is more about a Parkdale decision than it is a treat decision. A couple of options. One option I'll just show you here. When you select the OCAN, because there is a blank PDF version of it, if you click print blank assessment, it'll give you the OCAN form if you wanted to take it as a paper copy. So just as a quick the OCAN 3 version, just as a side. Now, that aside, if you wanted to do it that way and then come back and document it into the system on their behalf, you could do that. So imagine, if you will, I met with them, I did it on paper, I'm back in the office, and I'm just transcribing the information into a digital format. That's fine. The other option would be to upload it as a PDF, and that is an option, but you will lose some of the reportability of the data because now it's in just a PDF, and you can't necessarily just read PDF content digitally. So it is a Parkdale decision, but both of those would be viable as part of this process. And maybe you do both. You do the digital and you upload the paper copy as proof of what was done with the client.
I just have a question. What's client mode?
Client mode is for that self-assessment tab. You only see it on this tab. So if I go to the other tabs, it will. Actually, I guess you can do that on any tab. I didn't realize that. Sorry. But the idea is you can take any tab, and if you click it, it'll take you and lock you into that self-assessment page. So essentially, the idea is if you click that, it'll take you to this tab. They can't go anywhere else, and you can safely give your device over knowing that they can't navigate out of this screen into anywhere else into the system. Now,
But
I'll mention, yeah.
No, but also, like you were saying earlier, like they can't save and exit without a password anyway.
Correct. So the idea
So
is at that point, when they're done, they would have to give it back to you. And if they try to cancel, save, or do something else, it will force them into a password that they don't know. And at that point, they would have to give it back to you.
yeah, whether they're in client mode or not.
No. The password at this time only shows up when they're in client mode.
Oh,
So
gotcha.
if I'm in here and I'm just editing, I can click save and exit or cancel or submit, and I'll just do cancel. And you
Oh,
see it does
gotcha.
no password, no password.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, that's what. Oh, so you. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the care plan. Now you'll notice here a couple of things automatically showed up. So this is currently turned on for PARC. We can talk about if you want to maintain this or not. What you're seeing happen here is because I identified those two items as priorities because they were unmet needs for the client, it automatically generates care plan issues under those two titles in the chart. The idea is that you can jump in here and kick off with them without having to document from scratch and start by putting in a goal of maybe we're starting today, long-term goal, find stable housing for clients, or maybe Sam, make it more personal. And you can add your plan on your approach. Now, this isn't a care planning training per se session, but just showing you how they relate. And I can put the priority here. So again, we'll talk about care planning, and there'll be training for that. That typically hasn't happened yet at this stage. I could be wrong. But the idea is then you can put your care plan in motion in one fell swoop. Now, the way OCAN is kind of a moment in time snapshot, whereas the care plan is more of a living document. As you meet with them, things might change, things might update, things might be put into motion. So that's where the difference is. So the idea is that in 6 months or at discharge time, or when you do an updated OCAN, you can review the status of the care plan. And when you're doing your next OCAN, you can use that information to conduct it as opposed to only having a 6-month update in between. Donna?
Yes, I have a question. Let's say, for instance, you notate their goals, their aspirations, you put in what you what your plan is for them, and these notes are already done in the initial treat registration. So you go to your notes. Are those notes movable where you don't have to type them back into OCAN? Can you move notes from one area to OCAN?
Right, not quite. Some of the information we do use, but when you're doing the OCAN, really other than some of the stuff that we auto-populate, the first one won't have a lot of the if you can copy and paste it, but it would be a manual element if there's something like that. Are you talking about like the referrals notes? What
Well,
notes are we?
well, Anna had actually went through the process of
Right.
moving notes. So let's say, for instance, your notes already incorporated the answers to the specific question in OCAN. And instead of writing it over again or, just re-entering it in, can you move the note that was already done? Or, you know what? Never mind. I answered my own
Yeah.
question. Never mind. I got it.
That's okay. The moving,
Okay.
it's not quite like that. The moving is
Yeah.
about moving it between one client to another
Right,
client.
right, right, right,
Yeah, it
right.
would need to be a copy and paste type of thing,
Yes.
unfortunately. Now, keep in mind, you
Okay.
can leave an assessment in progress and come back to it, right? At any point, and this will override every edit check. So even if I leave
Okay.
something unanswered,
Right.
so I still have an issue, I paste my comments, and I'm like, you know what? Let me go check something. I'm gonna go check their notes. What did I say in this park drop-in? Oh, okay, was there case closure, blah, blah, blah. Copy that, and I can go back to my assessment. Now I'm navigating pretty quickly, but
Right.
hopefully you can see, like, once you get a little used to it, you can,
Okay. Okay. Perfect.
yeah,
Thank you.
no problem. So the care plan items, that was the quick recap. You'll see the care IPCC training, you'll get a bit more used to it, but just know that this integration is there. If you want, we can turn this off if it's not something that you're looking to use, because what might happen is if you have a bunch of open care plans and you have all these clients with a bunch of open care plans, it might not be a good thing if you're not really addressing them in a meaningful way. So we don't want to generate these and just leave them sitting there, if that makes sense. The last thing I'll mention is the heartbeat. Now, the way we typically incorporate the heartbeat is through tasks. And you might have not done the tasks training yet, but let me just show you how it's configured, and hopefully that'll explain how it fits in. So tasks, I'm on the admin website. You probably haven't gotten training on this either, but just know that there's a sister website that controls some of the parameters of what you're seeing in the front end system. One of them being the tasks. And in this case, there's a specific task for the OCAN that we have. Now, what this does is it deals with the OCAN. I'm just filling out some of the preliminary fields here. But what it does is it sets up a notification system for the OCAN based on the rules that the OCAN has. So I can say, for example, for all of our programs, if anyone's enrolled in any program listed here, and you can decide which ones you want to keep, send a notice to their OCAN lead, as well as their care team assignment, maybe just their case manager. I can decide to send an email as well. Let's not worry about that right now. Immediately upon enrollment, and it's due within 3 days, and they're responsible for either a core initial OCAN or a full initial OCAN. They can do either one. Now, if you want, you could do a force initial on readmit. The idea is for IAR, again, this submitting body, if you don't need to deal with them, a lot of the rules are less strict. But the idea is if a client comes back in less than 3 months, so if they come to your organization, they do everything, they leave, but they come back in less than 3 months, technically, you don't need to do another initial. Technically, the rules are that you can continue with a reassessment and continue where you left off. However, if you want, you can check this to force it so that it's always initial, even if it is within the 3 months. And then you have a repeat and a discharge. So the repeat, again, it comes down to your org, how you handle this. Some orgs do 30, 60, 180. Some orgs don't do it at all, if I'm being honest. But this is, again, the controversy of they're not being a recourse if it's missed necessary. There isn't a policing body that's going around to check this between the orgs. All that to say, usually it's either 30, 60, 90, or 180 days. I've seen a variety. Well, I'll go with 180 because that's what I've usually seen. Okay, I see head nods. Cool. So I'm going to say trigger it 160 days. So it's a little bit earlier, but it's due 180 days. So it essentially gives your team a 20-day heads up to finish that form. And in this case, I'm going to say do a core or a full reassessment. And then the discharge one, I'm going to also trigger right away, and it's due 3 days after discharge. And again, we can do the core or the full. Go ahead and try to click save. Okay, so there's our task. So now what's going to happen, and this is going to take effect as of this moment onward. So you're going to get bothered by this task as of this moment till you turn it off again. But if I take Charles here and I enroll them, let's say in case management money matters, because I put all of them, so it should pick any. What this should do is generate a task for me. Now, this might take a second to generate. Money matters, right? Money matters, money matters, okay. And I did it April 23rd. Maybe I should have backdated it a little bit. Let's go back to my Charles. Let me try one more time. I also might not be this person's care team. That might be why. I am neither their OCAN lead nor their care team. So I'm not going to get a task, but, oh, maybe actually. Let's see, care team. Nick. Nick might have gotten a task. Is Nick on the call? Nick's not on the call. Oh, Nick, you're on the call. Did you get a task, Nick?
I'm going to log in right now.
Okay. I can see it from this window as well. Doesn't seem like it generated. I'll play around with it a little bit, but this is the idea. Maybe it's already done the OCAN for this client. There's a few rules. I should have tried to mute.
Wait,
Did you
I
get it?
got a task.
Ah, okay. Hallelujah.
Yes. So it's just for people that know, the task button is 2 over from the pencil. Yeah. So I got a task and it says Root Charles, OCAN, initial OCAN reassessment.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So you probably already did an assessment for them at some point, if I had to guess. Let's see. No. So then why did it say reassessment? Did I choose it wrong? Initial. Okay, I'll double check the settings here, but this is the
Sorry.
idea. Yeah.
Did it say, I think it says pre-assessment. No.
Oh,
OCAN,
pre-assessment.
it says initial OCAN or reassessment.
I see. Okay, that's what it is. So that's going to push you into the initial, and when you click it, you'll see one of these two options, either the full or the core. But you guys can play with this now. It's set up on your environment. As soon as you enroll someone in any program and assign them to you, you should see it kick off for that client.
Nice.
Now, the reassessment rules, the discharge rules, the thresholds are all configurable. So I just set this up on this training environment so you can play around with it, get a feel for it. However you want this to set up on staging and prod, we can have different rules for different programs even. Let us know and we can come back to it. the last piece I'll add is reports. Now, I don't know if this will be installed. No, it's not yet. Eventually, you're going to have some OCAN reports available. I think there's 4 or 5 of them. They are replicas, for lack of a better word, of the reports that you would get on the IER portal. So one of the main features of the portal with IER is the data from other agencies, the whole collaborative nature. The other feature is they have a bunch of reports that generate based on the data. We have those reports in Treat that you'd be able to run, which essentially summarizes the OCAN assessment information across the different clients that you have, maybe to tell you how many needs of a particular type or how many unmet needs, et cetera, et cetera. Now, again, we can play around with those. They're standard reports. They just come out of the box based on the data. So I'll do one more summary and then I'll pause for questions. So in Treat, OCAN, the main integration is an assessment in Treat. It is a form that you can fill out as soon as you have a client who has been enrolled in a mental health program, essentially, which should be pretty much all of them. At that point, you can go into the assessments and launch an OCAN. Now I'm going to do a reassessment this time, which will change some things, but I'll come back to that. You'll notice also that I don't have an option to do another initial because I already did an initial for this program. I can only do a reassessment now. And because I'm doing a reassessment, it's going to give me the option to carry forward. Now, what this does is it takes the information from the previous OCAN, brings it over for me exactly as it was written, and I can change anything that's now different from the previous version. And I'll say the same for OCAN lead. I'll click continue. Now you'll notice pretty much all of these are already answered. There used to be a whole bunch of asterisks. They're not there because it's bringing over what I wrote last time. But let's say there's a change. You can then update that information respectively as those changes occur. Now, there is some information that get asked again, like was the self-assessment done? Why not? But that's pretty much all that you need to answer. The rest of it is the same as you wrote before. You put in a completion date and you click submit. If there's only warnings, remember you can click submit again and it'll go through. You can see the results page by page, or you can choose to see the full assessment. You can print, you can edit, you can audit. Okay. And by nature, currently, the OCAN is tied to the care plan. For all items that are unmet needs, essentially, they will generate an OCAN, an IPCC entry. We can turn this off if it is not useful for you. Let us know. And the tasks are how we control the heartbeat of the OCAN to make sure people are staying on top of the submissions. And finally, the interface. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
And the opposite isn't true. So if you update the IPCC here, it won't update the OCAN.
Unfortunately not. No,
Okay.
that's a good question though. And then the final thing is if you're interested in the interface, there is a service desk at ccim.ca or something like that. Anna should be able to send that over to you. If you need it, Anna, let me know. I can dig it up as well. But if you reach out to them, just say, hey, I am the lead at this agency. We heard about this IR interface. We do the OCAN. Let us know what we should do. It might take a little bit, but they can get you going onto the next steps.
Okay,
I'll
great. Thank you.
pause here for any other questions. No problem.
I think for us, like once we test around and poke around,
Yes.
the people that do the OCANs, they'll be able to kind of inform us a little bit more
For
about
sure.
the flow. So,
For
but this
sure.
is great.
Awesome. So maybe
Great.
I'll stop there. I'll hand it back to you, Anna. And
Thank you.
say
Yeah,
hello
thanks,
again.
Babak. Awesome. Okay. So that was the OCAN. again, if you have any questions, you can direct them to me. Unfortunately, Babak is the expert in the OCAN. I'm not so much, but I will reach out to Babak and get those
Expert is
questions.
the tough word. I
I'll
try.
get those
I try to stay on
questions
top.
answered for you. So good.
I'll
Okay.
take my leave here. Thank you all. It's been a pleasure. Speak to you
Thanks,
soon.
Babak.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so we have a few minutes before lunch. Do we want to go through something else, or do we want to break for lunch and come back at 1 o'clock? You guys are done? Information
Yes.
overload?
Yeah.
Need a break? I get that. No problem. Let's take a break. Let's meet back at 1 o'clock. Is that good?
Sounds good.
Okay, we'll see you guys in a bit.
Okay, ciao.
Thank you.
Enjoy. Take care. Bye. All right, wait for a few more people, I think. So you still have the emails from the Ontario Health information that I had sent out to you, right? To you and Monica?
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right, so if you can just use that to reach out to them. I think we're waiting for Una still, right? And maybe Eric. Okay. Mhm. Una, is Eric joining us as well?
I wasn't able to reach him. I've kind of been in, I just went into another meeting right after
Okay.
for lunch. So I texted him, but I haven't heard back. So
Okay.
I
That's fine.
suspect he's just